Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. The markets have recently gone up a little bit, and it's caused a lot of new hype to come into the market. Many people are getting excited by this recent price action, with Bitcoin and many of the other altcoins actually going up along the way. Does this mean that we're actually going to be heading to breaking and going into the next cycle high? Or is this just a short-term impulse before we inevitably get that last drop to 9K? Today I'm going to go through, give you guys some updates with Bitcoin. I wanted to give you guys some analysis with the dollar index and the gold chart so that we can all around know exactly what I'm expecting, because there's a lot of really important updates that have happened over the last couple weeks. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Make sure that you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. And always remember, guys, I have the best Discord community out there with over 17,000 members and growing so fast. I would love for you guys to join. It's free for anybody that wants to. All you guys got to do to join is to click inside the description of this video, and there you're going to find the invitation link to my Discord server. Now, on the Discord server, I also offer my more exclusive content like the video course and signals. So if you're somebody that wants to follow my 20 educational videos to teach you guys how to trade, or you'd rather just follow along with all the trades that I take and copy my portfolio, make sure you guys stay all the way to the end, because then I'm going to be taking a couple minutes to explain how you guys can get signed up, the pros of doing so, and what it's going to take to get you guys going today. And lastly, I also wanted to mention that you guys can download my free ebook. It's over 38 pages long, full of exciting information. It's going to teach you guys the ins and outs to investing. You guys are going to understand trading from a deeper perspective, investing from a deeper perspective, and then I've also got a bunch of terminology and a 10-part quiz through. Quiz yourself on all of the information learned inside the ebook, and then fully understand exactly all the concepts that I'm teaching. So once again, guys, I highly recommend you guys check that out. It's free for anybody that wants to. Once again, click inside the description of this video, and there you're going to find the link to my ebook. And with all that being said, guys, let's jump right into this amazing update today. Alrighty guys, so first things first, we're going to dive straight into some Bitcoin analysis. Now, as you guys already know, we've had a recent impulse that's taken Bitcoin to just under $12,000. This is a really encouraging sign for the bulls, but at the same time, we are still in what I would consider really a no trade zone for me until we fully sort out what direction we want to head. Now, the reason for this is because I've been watching the chart of gold and I've been watching the US dollar index for a little while now, because I think that these are going to be the most telltale signs of what the direction of the market is going to go. And for me, when I look at the Bitcoin chart, you know, even with us coming up and impulsing a little bit higher, there's still a couple key levels that we need to break above before I get super bullish. Now, first things first, we did clear and make a higher high above our previous resistance, which was right here at about 11K. $11,000, $11,100, somewhere right around there. And so we are above this level. So in my opinion, as long as we maintain support above this level, in the short term, we're going to be bullish, and that's going to point to new upside. However, if we manage to fall back down, you know, maybe it could look something like this. Maybe we do get one more impulse upwards of just under 12K, and then we actually start selling off. But if we ended up for any point below this level here at $11,100, then I'm going to be looking for more downside. Now, when I look at this, guys, not much has really changed with my overall trading plan. Even though Bitcoin's kind of gone up a little bit, I'm still a little bit more skeptical by this price action, and I'm still going to be watching for my bearish alternative, just due to the fact that I personally think that this is going to be, you know, a really important time for Bitcoin. You know, as long as we're above $11,100, I think that that's a very encouraging sign, because when we do drop it to about the monthly time frame, you guys can see, you know, that we pretty much retested the high of the candle body support. Well, technically this is resistance at about 11,000 or at about 10,800. We did retest that, and we're getting a nice buyback right now, which is a very encouraging sign. So overall, on the monthly time frame, this could be a bullish retest before we get a lot more upside. But on the shorter time frames, we need a little bit more confirmation before I'm going to get fully bullish here. We did manage to break above at about 11,100, and so we are maintaining a higher high above this. But until then, it's, in my opinion, we need to watch and see really for a full around confirmation before we can fully cement that we're going to be bullish. Now, when I see this, guys, you know, ultimately when I look at this, I still see us trending below this this trend line that we had. This was our trend line prior to the COVID crash. This is where we were riding on the whole time, and we actually sold through this. We got rejected once, and now we're kind of right back here at this same zone. which is why I think that we could still get one more impulse upwards of, just under 12K, and then we could actually start selling off lower. And so I'm going to be watching out for something like this still. Until proven otherwise, there's no reason to change my personal trading plan. I still see us at major resistance. And when I see this, there's other charts that actually have me thinking that this could be bearish, which is why, we take a look at the US dollar index. And what's really interesting about this chart, guys, is the fact that if we dive into a shorter time frame, you guys are going to see that this chart itself is basically just the inverse of the Bitcoin cycle. And the reason for this is because Bitcoin is most definitely inversely correlated to the dollar, and it just makes sense. Bitcoin's a deflationary currency. Whatever the dollar does, it's going to be reflected in Bitcoin in the inverse direction. We can see that right here is where we got the COVID crash. We can see this big spike in the dollar index, and that's because people were panic selling their commodities, they were panic selling their stocks, and they were holding US dollars because they were so fearful about everything that was going on with COVID, right? And so this is why we see this big pump here during the COVID crashes, because that's when the stock market sold off, that's when gold, silver, and Bitcoin and all the crypto sold off. And all of that money was going into the US dollar, which is why we got this strength through here. Now we can see down here, we are actually getting a nice little bounce on the dollar. This is happening right at a major support level, just coming about right here. And so this is looking pretty solid. This to me, when I look at this chart, this to me looks a lot more like a rounded bottom formation, and we're just kind of basing that bottom in before we actually do get one more impulse back up. I personally see that this is going to get a little bit more relief here. That's why I'm not fully bullish on Bitcoin. That's why I'm not fully bullish on cryptos. I still see this as some short-term weakness that, in my opinion, when the dollar is looking strong, it's showing this nice basing formation. I personally think that we're in for a little bit more relief, which in turn is going to cause Bitcoin and the other cryptos to bleed. Now, I know that I've kind of taken an alternative stance towards my normal trading plan. You guys are always used to me being fully bullish, expecting new upside, and while my long-term position has not changed or faltered, it's really just the fact that on the short term, I still think that there's a little bit more bearish signs, which is why I personally am going to be looking for, one more downside low. And the thing to understand with Bitcoin, is the dollar itself could go lower. Maybe this support fails and then we go for another new low. This is something that I'm definitely considering, and I'm not blind to that alternative. But when I look at Bitcoin, the same thing can be said here. As long as we're above this level at about $1,100, I personally look at this as short-term bullish. This right here is short-term bullish. Although we are coming at a short-term correction, as long as we're above this level, I would consider that to be more bullish than anything. And I would expect more upside potential to follow. But if we manage to sell back below this level, that's when I'm going to be looking for that downside target. And so we're just going to be watching for confirmation based around this $1,100 level. But with that being said, I wanted to share with you guys a really cool fractal that is actually here between the gold, between the dollar index and Bitcoin. And we can see that this is merely a fractal, Bitcoin itself from COVID on to where we're at today, and the dollar index from where we're at today is the exact same chart. It's just inverted. And so next we're going to actually take both charts and we're going to compare them side by side so that you guys can fully understand exactly what I'm talking about. Because in my opinion, both of these charts are merely just correlated in the same ways. The only real difference here is the fact that they're inversely correlated. So we can see, let's zoom them in here a little bit. We can see, let's remove the volume. So we can see right here, this is where we start to get the correlation. Now, this is where we get COVID. COVID happens, the big crash inside of Bitcoin. But we can see that at the same time, we're actually getting the peak high in the dollar index. And so at the peak low for Bitcoin was actually the peak high that we saw for this US dollar index before we started declining. And we can see that this chart itself is just very much correlated to what is happening with Bitcoin. We can see that Bitcoin going up showed that the dollar index was going down, and it looks very much the same. Now, when I see this, guys, I look at the dollar index and I see this as being a rounded bottom structure before we do get a little bit of relief and we come back up a little bit higher. That's personally what I'm watching out for with this dollar index. Now, the thing about the dollar index is this is coming after a long corrective move back down, and now we're starting to build that base. It looks to me like this is where sellers are getting exhausted, and we need one more little relief rally inside of the bulls before we can fully cement that Bitcoin is bullish. But when I see this, guys, we can see that these two are very much negatively correlated in the way that whatever the dollar does, Bitcoin does the opposite and vice versa. Now, when I see this chart, it to me just looks like Bitcoin is doing the exact opposite approach. And when I see this, because the dollar index shows this basing structure of a bottom formation and Bitcoin is still at the top of its trend, this is personally why I'm still believing that Bitcoin is going to sell off and go back down to this 9K level. I still think that we're getting a lot of euphoria and optimism right here. And while I'm not writing off the possibility of us actually being bullish, like I stated, as long as we're above support of $11,100 and we can continue to hold that level, then there's no reason to suspect the Bitcoin won't go higher, because I very much believe it will. But we're at a very important part in the market structure where it looks to me like the dollar is gaining a lot of strength right here. It's building that foundation before we get one more relief bounce. And if the dollar were to have a relief bounce, it's going to cause cryptos and gold and all the other markets to bleed, because anytime the dollar shows strength, people are selling their investments to hedge into the US dollar for stability. And so when I watch this, that's merely the only thing that I'm watching for right now. I'm not writing off the possibility that Bitcoin could be bullish, and my bearish primary was wrong. But in fact, until we get confirmation from the dollar itself, I'm not going to be too overly optimistic. I still have a lot of cash waiting on the sidelines that I want to buy the dip with. If we get the dip, that is going to be a great opportunity for me to unload into that market. However, if we don't get the dip, it's whatever. It's water under the bridge. At this point, I've already accumulated so much crypto since my time being here. I've been in crypto since 2016, and throughout that time, I really started dollar cost averaging about, August of 2018, right before that crash. We got that crash, and then I went just about all in with everything that I had, literally all of my money at the time. I went into Bitcoin, and from there, guys, I've actually managed to build a really solid portfolio. So if Bitcoin goes for one more low, that's going to be great for my overall buying opportunities. But if Bitcoin doesn't, I've already packed so many bags over the course of this time that I'm ready for more upside. And so I really don't care which direction it goes. I'm merely giving you guys an unbiased approach based off of what I see from the charts. And what the charts seem to be telling me is that the dollar had this long-term corrective move, and this doesn't look like it's going to be bearish. This to me looks like sellers are exhausting. We haven't really managed to break below too many levels. In fact, every time we try to sell off, we get bought up pretty quick. And this seems to be the case. Each down push gets less significant each time. And we can see that, it's just rounding out right here. This is an exact example of a rounded bottom formation. And, this rounded bottom formation has started ever since about right here. So from Bitcoin, this is kind of what you would consider maybe a rounded top. And on the dollar, it's becoming a rounded bottom. And I would expect one more little impulse back up inside of this dollar index before we were finished, which in turn is going to cause Bitcoin to bleed. And so I just wanted to give you guys that update. I wanted to give you guys a little bit more analysis inside of Bitcoin, because when I look at this, guys, we did have 5 impulse moves back up. This could have been 1, this could have been 3, and then this would have been 5. And then followed by that, we've just started that corrective move back down. Based off of conventional Elliott wave theory, the way that I personally trade this is you're looking for Fibonacci equivalents. And so after a one wave impulse, you'd be expecting of a decline of some extent, some type of corrective move back down. We've got our 1, 3, and 5 impulse waves. And, it's very possible that this could have already been our corrective move, A, B, C back down, and we could be ready for the next impulse. However, with this being a 1, 3, and 5 impulse, I would expect a little bit of a bigger corrective move that's going to take us at least back down to this 382 level. The 236 can hold, which it has thus far, but personally, when I see Elliott waves this correlated, it normally doesn't follow and hold support on that 236. Generally speaking, if we bounce off the 236, it's a corrective move back up before we ultimately get one more push back down, which in this case, that would look something like this. This would be a bigger A, B, C corrective move back down, and then we would find our bottom at this 382, which would be, about 9K. That's the reason why I built my trading plan around this market specific, is because I personally see strength in the dollar, and when we have strength in the dollar, it's going to spell weakness inside of Bitcoin. Even though Bitcoin is showing a lot of strength right now, it's getting a lot of higher highs, it's bouncing on the upside. The thing about this, guys, is all it takes is one strong pump from the dollar index, and Bitcoin being so volatile, Bitcoin being a risk-on asset, it's going to bleed quickly, and you guys should not be writing out the possibility that there be one more big corrective move on the downside. I could be very much wrong about that, and I'm totally fine with being wrong about that, because ultimately, I'm hedged net long. Over 80% plus of my portfolio is here for the long term, and so I actually benefit more by Bitcoin going up as far as my perceived dollar value goes. I'm going to be making way more money if Bitcoin goes up. However, I still think that I'm still not going to let that natural bias get in the way of what I see the charts telling me. And what the charts are personally telling me is that, you know, with the dollar showing strength, I personally think that we're going to get one more leg lower here inside of Bitcoin before we fully finish out this move. Now, one of the big reasons for this is if we come over here and take a look at gold, we can see that gold is actually getting rejected really hard right at this major resistance. Let me draw it up here a little bit higher. Fit her in there a little bit better. We can see that gold is actually getting rejected off of this resistance, and we're selling off, guys. This is what I was watching out for. Now, I was looking for a much bigger corrective move. Up to this point, you know, we kept getting these corrective moves, like right here we got rejected and then we pumped immediately. But the thing about it, guys, is after we got both of these two rejections that happened pretty quick, it's not looking very good, because not only are we below descending resistance, but we're pretty much below this horizontal resistance as well. This was the previous horizontal support. You know, you could even draw this down a little bit lower. It really doesn't matter. This was our previous horizontal support. Let's move this so it's easier to see. This once was our previous support, right? Support, support, support. We sold through this. This is now us acting as resistance, and this is really what I've been expecting ever since here. You know, both of these attempts at resistance I expected to get rejected. We got rejected here, but we got that immediate buyback as follows. And so for that, you know, it was still up in the air. What direction are we going to go? Well, I don't fully know, because we have to wait for confirmation. At the end of the day, we're still below resistance here. We're still below this horizontal resistance inside of gold, right? On top of that, we're also trending below this descending resistance in gold. So right here at this point, we're pretty much in a very confluent area where we can see both of these points are kind of merging at the exact same level. We got a major horizontal resistance right here, and we have a major descending resistance right here, and both of these levels are showing a rejection at the confluence. And so because of this, I'm still more bearish. I still personally believe that gold itself is headed for one more low that's going to take us to $1,800, and this is going to perfectly reflect that sentiment inside of the DXY, or the dollar index, because we can see here, guys, that, you know, if gold were to get that little bit of a sell-off, that means that this chart itself has to get some relief, and so that would mean the dollar index would bounce up something like this. Maybe we get one more high, but ultimately I expect this to fall to one more final low. But I still think that we're going to get a little bit of relief in the meantime. This is a basing structure of, you know, seller exhaustion. This is a rounded bottom formation, and I think that we're going to get one more high, one more impulse right here that's going to take us upwards of about just under 96 on the US dollar index before we get one more strong sell-off. And with that, guys, this is perfectly resemblance of gold. We can see that as the dollar is making basing formations, we can see gold is making lower lows and lower highs, and we're getting rejected off of these resistances. You know, with the dollar showing a little bit more strength, if we were to get that little bit of relief right here, that is going to cause gold to get one more sell-off back down to 1,800. And you guys already know why this $1,800 level is my level that I've been watching for so long. I think that that's the most obvious level that you could really watch for at this point, because ultimately, you know, we did just break the all-time highs. Now, oftentimes when we break all-time highs, there's two things that happen. Option A is we immediately go into price discovery, and the markets just do nothing but go straight up, parabolic. That is option A. Now, option B is after a breakout of all-time high, you get a retest of the previous all-time high as support before we do get that inevitable price discovery where everything goes parabolic. Both of these directions lead the same way, which is why even though I could be short-term bearish, it does not change my long-term outlook on the markets at all, because ultimately I still see gold being in price discovery. I see gold being in price discovery. I see Bitcoin going to get a lot of new value coming into its market due to the fact everybody is so confident about gold breaking out. And for that, we're going to get our ultimate bull run that we've been expecting. But nonetheless, I still expect gold to get one more sell-off down to this $1,800 level. Guys, this is a very major level that we have to watch out for, because this used to be a very heavy resistance level. We flipped that, and so it's no longer acting as resistance, but the opposite. It's going to act as support, but we haven't retested it yet. We haven't tested any of that. And the thing is, guys, we did manage to retest the all-time highs, but we ultimately sold below that level, and we can see that right here. This was the all-time highs at about $1,920. This is kind of where we are holding support of this descending triangle right here, and then we sold through that. We are now getting rejected at this level, which is, in my opinion, going to ultimately spell one more downside target to $1,800. At this point, I'm merely beating the dead horse because I've been so adamant about this being my trading plan. My videos have probably gotten a little bit boring over the last couple weeks, but it's just mainly because ultimately these are the only charts that I think are important to pay attention for, and if we don't pay attention for these charts, we're not going to know what the heck the cryptos are going to do. Because the thing about Bitcoin, guys, is this thing is volatile. volatile. Bitcoin's going up right now. It's not really selling off in the wake of, gold itself making this nasty rejection. And so for that, this can be very misleading. We could see a lot of hopium in the way that the Bitcoin is going up. Everybody's expecting it to continue to break new all-time highs. But ultimately, we still see the dollar making a rounded bottom formation, and ultimately gold is getting rejected right at resistance. I still think we're going to sell off, retest this final support level here at $1,800. And then we're going to get that buyback that's going to take us upwards of about $5,000 per ounce. That's personally going to be my long-term target for gold. I do strongly believe we're going to be hitting upwards of 5K per ounce. And so ultimately, guys, that's going to be a great commodity bull run. We're going to see Bitcoin. We're going to see gold. We're going to see silver. We're going to see uranium. All of these different sectors, we're going to see them all go up in value. But ultimately, I still am a believer that we need one more downside target. I'm not going to fully get bullish. I know a lot of people are getting really bullish right now because Bitcoin's been going up. But ultimately, I still think that there's still a lot more price action that has to be had before we can fully understand exactly what way we're going to go. And so, guys, I just wanted to give you guys this update. I wanted to make sure you guys are on the awareness with me. Wanted you guys to understand exactly my alternatives. I wanted to give you guys my analysis as far as why I think that gold and the dollar index. Well, I wanted to give you guys my analysis as far as why I think that the dollar index is going to cause Bitcoin and gold to actually go down for one more low, even though we are getting this nice little bounce here. Ultimately, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish right now with Bitcoin due to the fact we did just manage this great pump after COVID. On top of that, we flipped this major resistance here at about 10,500. And so there is a lot of optimism inside of this market. But ultimately, I want to get optimistic with you guys. I want to be super bullish, but I can't because I see too much strength in the dollar right now. Ultimately, I could be wrong about this. The dollar could fall and go to a lower low, which at that point, I'm making more money. And so it really doesn't matter what direction the market goes. But I wanted to make sure you guys are aware that I'm not going to lead you to the slaughter. If I see something that might be uncharacteristic, specifically me being more bearish in the time in which I've always been bullish on this channel, I don't have a problem doing that, even if I get a little bit of hate for it, because ultimately I want you guys to be aware and I want you guys to profit off of this. And ultimately, I know you guys already have your bags packed, so there's really no reason to hate. The only reason you'd be mad about me being bearish is the fact that you're either too over leveraged or you just have this bias that you can't shake. You're emotionally invested to the price only going up. And the only way you're going to be profitable inside of this market is you have to be willing to accept that there's going to be points where the market pulls back. You're not going to be making money in your long-term portfolio. And ultimately, you have to be doing your part to buy that dip. And really, guys, I see a good buy the dip opportunity. I think that we're going to get one more big impulse right here inside of the dollar index. We're going to come up and hit these resistances here at just under 96 on that dollar index. This is going to cause gold to go for one more low, and ultimately it's going to cause Bitcoin to go for one more low. And so when we look at this on the monthly, I think that we're going to get one more sell-off back down to about 9K, and then we're going to get that final impulse that's going to take us into that cycle high upwards of, $17,000 to $20,000. Because my long-term stance has not changed on Bitcoin. In fact, I've only ever gotten more bullish as the time goes on because I just look at this chart and see a lot of upside potential. But ultimately, I still see us as selling below this trend line. We did sell below that trend line. This is 2 rejections. I personally think that we're going to come right here. We could go up a little bit higher. Don't get me wrong. I still think we could come upwards of just under 12K before this thing tops. But ultimately, I still think we're going to get one more strong sell-off that's going to take us back down to about 9K. This is what I want because I have a lot of cash on the sidelines. If I get it, great. If I don't get it, I already have so much money in crypto that it doesn't matter what direction the market's going to go. I am here to profit on both scenarios, both directions, and ultimately that's what you guys should be doing as well. And so, this chart, the last analysis that I've had over the last couple of weeks has stayed pretty consistent because the market itself of Bitcoin hasn't changed a whole lot. The dollar index hasn't changed a whole lot, gold hasn't changed a whole lot, but we are starting to see, in my opinion, the early stages of what I ultimately expected to have happen, because right now we're seeing gold getting rejected at that resistance level, right? We could draw it up a little bit higher. Ultimately, that takes place right at that all-time high mark. We held support above this, but we sold through it and we're now getting rejected at resistance. And so I think that this is going to spawn one more leg lower, a great buying opportunity throughout the markets. And this is what we have to be ready to play. If I'm wrong, it's so be it. We're all making money, and so it doesn't matter. If I'm right, you guys are going to be aware and you're going to be ready to capitalize on that sell-off. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys are in the awareness, in the knowing about what I'm doing with my trading plan, how things have stacked up over the last couple weeks. I haven't uploaded in a week because I was actually seeing my girlfriend's dying family, and so I just wanted to make sure sure that I was there for her. And so I was actually gone. I wasn't spending any time on my Discord. I wanted my own free time to just kind of be myself, do my own thing. And so that's why you guys haven't seen my uploads over the last couple days. But ultimately, expect more. I'm back home in California, and I will be doing a lot more of those. So quickly, before we wrap things up, for the people that have waited this long that want to hear more about the video course and signals, guys, ultimately, if you're inside of this market and you want to be following somebody that knows what they're doing, you want to be able to follow a trading plan, get access to a long-term portfolio that you can copy and just make the profit with me over this next cycle, I always recommend going with the signals. You know, I offer the signals inside of my Discord. I post every trade that I take, and I'm also going to be adding a lot of new stuff. Today, I'm going to be starting to work on new VIP videos, and I'm going to be releasing those inside of the Discord. Basically, it's going to go through how to follow my trading plan, how to allocate funds, how to use proper risk management, and all of those things. And so you guys are going to get extra videos on top of signing up for the signals because of the fact I want to keep you guys aware on how to actually follow along with all those trades that I take. And so I'm going to be adding a lot of new stuff to there. Not only are you guys going to get access to my long-term portfolio, you guys are also going to be getting access to all the trades that I take, all the low cap trades, mid caps, and high caps. All are going to be in there. So if you guys want to just copy what I do, you're tired of finding yourself making losses, you're tired of having no idea what you're doing, join the signals, get access today, and copy along so that you guys are fully in the awareness and are able to profit over this next cycle. Now, lastly, you guys can also sign up for the video course, which is 20 educational videos that are going to teach you guys all of my strategies for profiting. I will go through, give you guys all the detailed analysis on my own personal trading plan. You guys are going to know exact strategies for how I trade inside of this market, so you guys can educate yourself and actually go about doing it at your own pace. You guys can actually purchase these together or separate. Links are going to be provided inside the description of this video. You guys can you guys can find my website there. You guys can purchase them together or separate, whether you're looking for the course or whether you're looking for the signals. And lastly, before we wrap things up, guys, also check out my free ebook. It's free for anybody that wants to, so you guys are going to actually understand exactly what my group comes with, how my trades work out, you know, some terminology, and then I've also got a 10-question quiz in there that you guys can go through, read all the information, and then quiz yourself to see if you guys fully retained all of that knowledge. Ultimately, if you guys aren't going to sign up for either, I always recommend going with the ebook because it's free. You're not going to have to pay me anything, and you guys are going to be able to learn a lot of solid information. So once again, links are provided in the description for both the ebook and the website to download and the website to buy my video course and signals. So make sure you guys check that out. And with all that being said, guys, I will catch you in the next video. As always, peace out.